Welcome to Ngozi Technology YouTube channel, your go-to destination on matters academic research writing. I am Lucy Wanjiro, your research assistant. In this channel, we are dedicated to take you through a step-by-step basic guideline in writing a research paper from the topic to its conclusion. Whether you're pursuing a diploma, undergraduate, postgraduate diploma, master's, or PhD degree, this channel is tailor-made for you. We are committed to equip you to become an authentic and skilled research writer. Remember to subscribe, like, share, and engage us in the comment section for questions and suggestions. Welcome on board. Today we are going to discuss about mastering literature review. Well, in our previous videos, we have captured chapter 1 of the research paper. Now we're in chapter 2, the literature review. What is literature review? Literature review is like a map that shows what others have explored in your research area. It summarizes and evaluates existing studies to help you understand what's already known and what questions remain unanswered. It is also a guide that provides context, highlighting the gaps and setting stage for your own contribution in the field. What are the steps of writing literature review? In this area, we are just going to highlight the steps. Yes, so let's just look at the outline of how your literature review looks like. Number 1, it has to have an introduction. This is where you introduce your topic. Ensure that your topic is concise and it states clearly the research questions and the objective of your literature review. Offer a brief overview of the broader context of the topic. Okay? Explain why it is important, why it is timely or relevant within the academic field and the society. For example, you can say this literature review explores the impact of social media on mental health of adolescents. Offer a brief overview of the research topic. Explain why it is important. Explain why it is timely. Explain why it is relevant within the field of your study and within the society. The next thing that is in your literature review is the body of your literature review. What does it consist? This is where you break down your research objectives into topics. Convert your research objectives or your research questions into well-crafted topics. Some other people could do themes or categories. That is also okay. You can create an outline of themes or categories. For me, I prefer using the research objectives or the research questions to help you to now discuss the research topic in detail. So, for instance, you can provide a summary of key studies within each theme or within each research objective. So you're going to go and do studies. You're going to go and find out the journals, the research papers that have been written in relation to your research topic, in relation to your research objectives. Okay? What are you doing there with those papers? You are finding out the key findings. You are highlighting methodologies. You are highlighting key findings. You are highlighting the key contributions. For example, you can say Jones et al. 2019 conducted a study on the relationship between social media use and self-esteem among adolescents, finding a significant negative correlation. So you are going through all these journals and all these research papers, identifying what these studies have done in terms of their methodologies, in terms of key findings, in terms of their contributions. Ensure that all these studies are related to your research objectives, they're related to your research questions. Then you go ahead and synthesize the information. What is this synthesizing? You draw connections between studies. You discuss commonalities, differences, and trends. For example, you can say, well, some studies suggest positive outcomes, such as increased social support. Others highlight the risk of cyberbullying and negative psychological effects. Ensure that you are citing your work very well and using references. As I have said, we are going to discuss about citations. We are going to discuss about referencing in a different video. Okay, you go ahead and evaluate your studies, your authors, all the papers that you have under that topic. Evaluate them critically in terms of their strengths, limitations of those studies. You discuss credibility of the authors, the appropriateness of the methodologies, and overall quality of the research. For example, you can say, well, the sample size of study X was limited. Its longitudinal design adds valuable insights to the temporal aspect of social media impact on adolescent mental health. I want to put a caveat here and say that when I'm taking you through writing your research paper, I'm assuming you've been to a class, you've been taught research methodologies. Yes, because you cannot write a research paper when you have not been taught about research methodologies. It's going to be hard, because when we talk about things like sample size, yes, we are going to discuss about sample size when we reach chapter 3 of research, but you need to have a background. At least you have to know what we are discussing. Okay, the next thing you need to have in your literature review is the theoretical framework. This is where you discuss the relevant theories in relation to your research topic. The first thing, you identify the theory and tell us what the theory states. Then you go ahead and explain how these theories are applicable to your research question. For example, you can say the social comparison theory provides a lens through which to understand how adolescents compare themselves to others on social media and its implications for their mental health. Okay, then the next thing that should be in your literature review is the research gap, which I've said we are also going to discuss it in another video separately. So in the research gap, you just articulate the gaps or limitations in the existing literature. You have already gathered your literature together. You have already discussed it. Now here you identify the existing gaps that you have identified in studies written by other authors. You identify even the need for further research to be done and discuss why is it important, why is it crucial to address these research gaps. How does your research contribute to filling these voids? For example, you can say, while many studies focus on negative impacts, there is a noticeable gap in research exploring positive outcomes or effective interventions to mitigate the negative effects. Addressing these gaps is imperative for developing comprehensive strategies to support adolescent mental health in the era of widespread media use. Okay? Highlight the need for further studies, for further research. Yes. Then there is also a conclusion part in your literature review. Here you summarize key findings. You revisit the research question. You reinforce the relevance of your literature review in relation to your research question. How was this literature review relevant in answering the research question? Then you discuss the implications of your literature review in terms of future research, in terms of policy, in terms of practice. For example, you can say, this comprehensive review contributes to the understanding of how social media impacts adolescent mental health and lays the groundwork for empirical study. Understanding the announced effects of social media on mental health is crucial for developing targeted interventions that promote positive outcomes among adolescents. You need to develop 3 skills. The first one is summarizing. Okay, this is where you read through literature, through journals, through research papers that have been done. You have to go and do a thorough study. Okay? This is a thorough study of journals, research papers that have been written by other people. Look for research papers that are related to your study. There are tools in the internet, AI tools. Maybe I'll be discussing that, maybe not. I don't want to dwell so much on the use of AI because so many students are falling prey of this, and they're becoming lazy and using AI to write for them their research papers. I am not discouraging the use of AI. AI can be used to help you get those journals, but don't use it to write your research papers, because today we have technology, we have systems that can be able to detect AI written research papers, and you will be disqualified in your studies. So I encourage students to use AI to help them search through the internet, get those journals, get those research papers that have been written in your area of study. Now, when you get those papers, what do you do with them? What are you looking for? Number one, you are looking for the research questions. You are looking for the research objectives. You are looking for main contributions. You are paying attention to methodologies, key findings, and limitations that have been mentioned. And then you're going to identify the key points. What is the focus? What is the primary argument? What are the findings of each source that you have? By source, we mean the journals and the research papers. You have to have a notebook when you're doing literature review, because you have to take notes, okay? And it has to be systematic. Write your objectives down. Then identifying those things we have talked about, the methodology, the key findings, the limitations from various sources, from various journals. Yes, you have to write your notes. Then organize that information very well. Then the next thing is to avoid plagiarism. When you're summarizing, use your own words to convey the information. Don't just copy-paste what other people have written. Use your own words to convey that information. Read and then use it. Use your own words to rewrite that information. When you need to directly quote somebody, use quotation marks. Okay? Provide very good citations for your work. Yes. And then the next thing is citing properly. Use a very consistent style. When you begin with APA, make sure it's APA all through. We are going to do another video on citations and referencing. The next skill that you need is synthesizing. What is synthesizing? Synthesizing is identifying the patterns, the connections. Look at the commonalities, the patterns across studies. For instance, if you're exploring psychological impact of social media, identifying the recurring themes, such as increased anxiety, social comparison, or the role of online communities. Then create a synthesis statement. What is a synthesis statement? It is a statement that is connecting one study to the other. You have multiple studies. Maybe you have like 5 authors. You have like 5 journals. You connect the information you're getting from this study to the other in terms of the findings, in terms of methodologies. You look for a connecting statement. For example, you can say, well, study A found a positive correlation between X and Y. Study B introduced a nuanced perspective, suggesting that the relationship is contingent on Z. You see, you are using 3 studies and you have synthesized them. You have brought them in using one statement. That is what we are calling synthesizing, establishing relationships. How different studies relate to one another. Show how earlier research may have paved way to subsequent research, or how new methodologies have refined our understanding of a particular phenomenon. Then also highlight trends and development. Trace the evolution of ideas over time. Discuss how the literature has progressed, noting the trends and the shifts in focus. Okay, this one will help you discuss how early studies laid a groundwork for the current research in your field. Okay, the next skill that you need is critical evaluation. What is critical evaluation? This is where you assess the methodologies. You scrutinize the methodologies that have been used in each study. Evaluate the appropriateness of the research questions used in those studies, not yours, those studies. For example, if you are reviewing educational interventions, consider the strengths, the weaknesses of experiments, surveys, qualitative and quantitative approaches. Then evaluate credibility. Whose credibility? The credibility of the author, the credibility of the journals. Examine the limitations. Discuss limitations of each study honestly. Maybe it could be the sample size. It could be biases. It could be methodological constraints. It could be acknowledging limitations. Acknowledging these limitations demonstrates a critical understanding of literature. When you are able to do critical evaluation, it shows that you have understood your literature. Compare and contrast methodologies, results, conclusions across all these studies that you have gathered. For example, in a review of marketing strategies, compare effectiveness of different approaches and highlight inconsistencies or areas of disagreement in the literature. Then you identify the gaps, identify existing gaps. Where does the literature fall short in terms of unexplored populations, under-researched variables, or methodological gaps? Addressing these gaps sets the stage for the significance of your own research paper. Okay. Then consider counter-arguments. Acknowledge and discuss counter-arguments or alternative perspectives. This demonstrates how you have a nuanced understanding of the research topic. If you are reviewing studies on the impact of a policy, discuss differing viewpoints on its efficacy. Okay? Those are the 3 critical skills that you should have when you're writing your literature review. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our study today. And in conclusion, remember the specific format of your research. It may vary based on the requirements of your academic institution, the nature of your paper, and the preferences of the journal or publications where you intend to submit your work. Always refer to the guidelines that have been provided by your institution or your targeted publication for the specific formatting requirements. Thank you for joining our academic journey today. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe for more insightful content. Give us a thumbs up, like, and share. Also engage us in the comment section for any reviews, questions, and suggestions. Until next time, enjoy your researching. I am Lucy Wanjiru. Adios.